As a Scottish person, bull from an American as usual. Another American who knows absolutely nothing, flapping his gums like he's an expert. Breaking news. American does zero research before going to Scotland and is surprised it's not the same as USA. American guy is surprised that another country is different to America. Shocking. I recently made a 10 tips to know before you visit Scotland video, and I got completely roasted by Scottish people in the comments. So I wanted to take an opportunity to set the record straight, read some of the funniest comments, and then give some tips that they gave that honestly I really should have thought about before I made that video. So let's get into it. There's thousands of castles in the country and you want to focus on the pile of rocks? Bro, do your research. There's more history in Scotland's pinky than America. Well, I'm not going to refute that. In fact, my first tip of that video was do your research before you visit a castle. So I was just saying that if you think all castles are equal, you're going to be sorely disappointed unless you do some research. So I think we actually agree on that one. I'm from the Isle of Lewis and most of the island accepts cards. It's very, very rare you come across a cash-only shop. I'm pretty sure most honesty boxes access card. You may have been mostly cash on the islands, probably due to bad internet, but majority of places take card. We have chip and pin and contactless tap to go for transactions up to 100 euros, so no pin or signature required. So that's actually something really good to know. I personally encountered places that preferred cash and had issues with connectivity on some of the islands. The Wi-Fi kind of is spotty, and so I had to use cash for some of them, which was fine. But for the most part, people who live in Scotland don't have any issue using credit cards, and that's really good to know. There are some things called honesty boxes where you'll find a local farm that puts a lot of their produce out in a shed that's kind of close to the road so that people can drop by, choose what they want, and then they'll leave some cash in there. And the ones that I ran into were a lot of cash specifically. Some of them you probably have like a little touch screen, you can dial it in, but a lot of the older fashioned ones, you kind of just drop some coins in a box, take what you want, and then skedaddle from there. A lot of people corrected me on that, and so that's definitely something that's worth noting. My advice to our US friends would be 1, don't be a loud, obnoxious, inconsiderate person. 2, if you're a Maggle, wear that red hat so we can treat you appropriately, or preferably just don't come here. It's going to be a pretty big number of people that you're going to drive away. But, I mean, if you're trying to get people to not go, probably pretty effective. Sorry, did you come for our accents? Give your head a wobble and don't have a corner... I love this one. Sorry, did you come for our accents? Give your head a wobble and don't leave your corner of the states again. Good grief. Oh, they have accents. Good grief. I don't have a problem with the accent. I love the accent. I mean, I wish I sounded as cool as Scottish people sound. I'm Scottish and even I struggle with the different accents. I mean, it's good to hear one person at least have the similar story. I don't hate accents. They're the coolest thing in the world. I watched a lot of Crocodile Hunter growing up, and so my first accent that I ever tried to learn was Australian. But second was Scottish, probably because of Mike Myers in My Wife Married an Axe Murderer. William, move your head. Haulin' that gargantuan cranium about. OMG, how do we manage with our bipolar weather? Some of our roads are older than your country. We almost have the light for 20 hours in the summer. Notice I didn't say sunny, which is why we all F off to Spain or Turkey, leaving it free for our lovely tourists. Glad you like the train, and I haven't used cash for years. So you enjoyed it then? There is so much sarcasm in this one paragraph that I don't know what to do with it. I'm gonna take it positively. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good. If only we had planned our roads and cities like your extremely ancient country, eh? Yeah, obviously sarcasm. There was a point that I made where I was talking about how the roads were really narrow and how the cities weren't designed for it. I don't know how that's a criticism, that's just an observation. I mean, obviously cities that are old are gonna be old. I didn't have any issue with that. Finally, a positive comment. I hope you had a good time. Just an FYI, please don't park on the pavement. It's illegal. And you'll get fined, and it means disabled people can't get past or walk down the street. Another person said, You cannot park on the curb anymore. It's illegal. So when I was driving specifically around Loch Ness, there were a lot of streets where I saw entire rows of vehicles partially pulled up onto the curb so that cars could get past them. If they had not done that, it's literally impossible to get a vehicle around them. So I'm speaking from a personal experience that I had in some of the cities, and I had a couple other people who commented that parking slightly on the curb is actually pretty common in Europe in general. So it was an observation that I felt like was worth making. However, this person brings up a point that it might be illegal, so I would check the local laws in the areas that you're in. I typically err on the side of when in Scotland, do as the Scottish do. So if you see a bunch of locals partially pulled up, I think it's safe to say that that's an area where that's required, but don't just pull up on the curb just because you think it'd be easier. All these tips, by the way, are stuff that I learned while I took my trip up to the Calendish Standing Stones. I made an entire documentary of that, which you should jump over and take a look at after this video, because it's a wild ride, but maybe you'll see some of where I picked up a few of these tips. Nice to see a positive post from America. Most of your countryfolk just don't get our country. A word on the weather: if you can see the mountains, it's going to rain. If you can't see the mountains, it's raining already. I really like that. Evidently, there's a lot of Americans that just don't get Scotland. I honestly think that a lot of it is just the difference in communication styles. I found that a lot of Scotsmen can be gruff up front, but then you crack a couple jokes and it's like night and day, as opposed to Americans, which I think sometimes, at least here on the West Coast, we can be nice to your face and then mean to you in private. That's just personal experience. I'm sure there are people who are friendly up front and mean in the back and vice versa, but there's not a difference on average of kindness or meanness in any society. I think it's more of just the sample that you experience while you're there. And we'll get to that a little bit later, because there was one comment that, it set everybody off, so that'll be fun. This guy is only running down Scotland and has said in the comments we are not nice people, and obviously we are supposed to change our accent for Americans. Castles are just a bunch of fallen down rocks. You get the attitude you give out, obviously on the payroll to slander Scotland. I've been had. This person says, so confused about the sunset questions. Scotland in summer, where the sun doesn't set until 9 to 10 p.m. at the earliest? So I made a comment about how when I went to Scotland, which was in October, the sun set very early, and you had to keep in mind not only the time that Google said the sun was going to set, but also the mountains around you, so that the sun, when it goes behind a hill, because it's gonna end up getting darker before sunset. Just because of the surroundings. So when you're driving all across the Highlands and you're planning on driving, you want to make sure that you're scheduling your time that you're driving, not when you want to be out exploring. So try to get there early, all this other stuff. But because it's in the Northern Hemisphere, super far north, you get the opposite effect during the spring summer, which is that the sun doesn't set until past 9. And I even heard a couple of people saying, yeah, it really doesn't get completely dark certain times. I don't know if that's an exaggeration or what, but worth noting, my experience and the 10 tips that I gave came from going in October. So keep that in mind. Things are going to be different whenever you decide to go. You 100% cannot get around Scotland on the train. The trains are awful. You can get to maybe 5% of the country by train. Always get a hire car. This from a Scottish person who lives in Scotland and is a travel agent for holidays in Scotland. The rest of the vid is legit. Well, I appreciate the last little endorsement, but you are right about the train system. In my video, I think the way that I phrased it was you could travel to Scotland without needing to drive a car. I don't think that you can see all of Scotland for sure by doing the train, because you're right. You're going to get maybe 5% of it. However, if you're planning a trip to Scotland and you've only got 3 days or so and you just kind of want to hang around the cities, you could technically go to Scotland and have a trip without driving a car. You take a bus, take a train, scenic, that's totally fine. However, I 100% agree that if you're gonna see Scotland and you want to make a great trip out of it, you gotta drive. You gotta be willing to go out into the Highlands a little bit. Some people mentioned hop on, hop off buses. There's a lot of tour buses that go out to different places, so you could hitch a ride with those. But my favorite part of Scotland was just the drive. It's road trip country for sure. I loved it. Got one more for you. Don't be so loud. It comes across as rude. I think that's just a general good piece of advice. I like it. My daughters and I have been there 3 times, drove around, had no plans, and always had a wonderful time. Even brought home a souvenir who is now my son-in-law. If that's not the cutest little story I've ever heard, I hope I can find one of those for my sister. Does he have any like siblings or anything like that? You should try some bothy bashing. They are free and anyone can use them in the mountains. I have no idea what those words mean, and I really want to hear, I'll look it up right after this video, but I really want to hear what Scottish people have to say about that. Is there some secret society in the mountains of like huts or something like that you're able to use? Because I know that camping, that's one thing that people brought up, was camping is free in most places, like as long as it's not someone's private garden or some place with cattle or something like that, you're able to like camp there for the night. That's a trip that I would love to do, but the rules around it I totally don't know, so I might have to look into that a little more. In Scotland, we call them hills, not mountains, just like lochs, not lakes. That's actually something that I didn't know, and when I was coming up with the script, I was very confused how they were used interchangeably in some of the things I was reading, but that's really cool. It makes a lot of sense though, because some of the mountains in the UK are pretty big, but by standards of the rest of the world, they're, pretty small. So I guess hills does make a little bit more sense now that I think about it. Scottish pub owner here. Yes, you don't need to tip at shops and such, but please tip your bartender and food servers. The tourist season is short and tips are very important for us to make it year to year, so we can be here for you. 10% is standard for restaurant tips. We generally just tip restaurants. So both of these have to do with tips. In my last video, I talked about how 10% is kind of like the most that I would recommend tipping for, the average amount if you're going to leave a tip. You don't need to go crazier than that. It's not required and kind of like implied like it is in America. And in fact, there's some really funny comments where people are saying, please don't bring tipping culture to Scotland. But keep in mind that the peak season for Scotland and a lot of the tourist places, they only get one little stretch of time to try to make the money for the entire year. Business is really slow in the off season, and so the tips are kind of what helps them make it through into the next, to the next season. So again, really encourage, if you're going to give one of these places your patronage, that you consider leaving a tip just for that reason alone. All right, this is probably the craziest comment and sparked so much debate. This is my opinion, but we found the people in Ireland much more friendly and kind than over in Scotland. Our experience of 8 days in a town near Edinburgh was nightly drunk singing people walking by, territorial pub patrons who were rude and judgmental, who went out of their way to exclude us, and bad food. So that sounds like a bunch of really bad coincidences all strung into one trip, and I feel very bad for the person who went on this. And I can't argue with it because that's a personal experience. I don't know who in the world was deciding that they were going to do all of those shenanigans, the crazy singing, or where they ate that they thought was bad food. I do know that some travelers and tourists are much pickier than others. I'm married to one of those. However, I would be very careful to judge any population by one little sample size. My experience in Edinburgh and in other big tourist cities is they are fed up with tourists. We see it in places like Barcelona, Venice. Having gone to Tokyo many times, I can feel a difference in downtown Tokyo versus outside of Japan, like out in the more rural areas. People out there, they're fascinated with you. They love you. They want to talk to you. They want to hear your crazy accents. In Scotland, people who were out in the, kind of in the Highlands, they thought our accents were cool. And people in Edinburgh were tired of us. And I don't blame you. Tourism is such a weird dichotomy, right? Where you get a mix of really polite people but then you get some people that just ruin it for everybody. And when you see so many people, the odds of you coming across someone who completely ruins your day goes up and up and up. Whereas the people who are more dedicated, more excited about it, not there for the tourist stuff, there to really appreciate it and experience it, it's more likely that they're going to find themselves further away from the places that everyone deems as like the tourist traps, right? I would say to this person who had this experience, I'm really sorry. I hope that you choose to go to Scotland again and that you give some other places a shot. Glasgow was incredible if you're going to go to a bigger city. Some other places in Edinburgh are probably fantastic. I mean, I didn't have any issues when I went there, but the Highlands, man, get out to the Highlands, meet some people, like, share a drink, go to a pub, there's some really cool places that are just If you just look a little bit past that bad experience, I know you'll have a great time. And for everyone roasting them in the comments, I get it. Don't be the reason that they don't come back. I would say encourage them to try to see things from a different perspective. Hello, nice video, lots of great points here. As a Scot, we mostly are a friendly bunch and welcoming to everyone. Anyone reading this, if you're driving, especially in the Highlands, ensure you choose a rental car wisely. The roads are full of potholes on the main motorways, but the countryside roads are worse. If you're not confident or used to driving on the opposite side of the road, do not drive in Edinburgh, especially during August at the festival season. Even a lot of Scots don't like driving in Edinburgh city centre. There's a lot of great buses, coach tours, and up to the Highlands too, if you're not confident driving. Also, if anyone has a hangover, get yourself a roll and square, Lorne, sausage at the side next day. This cures everything. That is a remedy I've never heard of. I don't drink, so don't need it, but I do know I really like Irn Bru. And evidently there's a version of Irn Bru that's more like traditional, which is supposed to be even better. I have yet to get my hands on one. Don't forget the south of Scotland, Dumfries and there's a Galway in Scotland too. And the borders have some of the best wee towns and beaches. Also great if you're into walking and cycling. Love it. My favorite part of Scotland was chatting with our bed and breakfast hosts. I learned more history and culture from them than I did on our tours. You are right, the rain and wind are next level. In my experience too, like all the really cool hidden spots and fun conversations I've had have been with like bed and breakfast hosts or Airbnb hosts. They're like the most knowledgeable people. If you sit down and, like have a fun conversation with them when you check in or as you're getting ready to go out for the day, you might learn some really cool stuff. That's all the crazy comments for now. Feel free to roast me in this comment section. Leave your personal tips. I'd love to share tips from locals, tips from other people who've gone to Scotland, just to help other people better prepare for their trip. I want everyone to have an incredible time and see Scotland for what it really is, a beautiful, magical place to travel to, and I want everyone to be respectful. And I think hopefully by educating, we can dispel some of the tourism biases and make the travel experience better for everyone all around. So, see ya.